In many towns in Europe, there is this funky phenomenon where the countryside is losing their population, and it's mainly for employment opportunities. Sicily is no different. That's why they're selling the properties here for just $1. It's because a lot of the youth and the working class is deciding to move to the bigger cities. I find that the programs are quite a bit of a success. It's really attracting people who are interested in putting dollars to work, interested in creating new things. It's drawing in artists, it's drawing in people who can envision more. Sicily was also a free state or free nation and not part of Italy. The modern day Italy is a collection of city-states that were independent, forced to now be under one banner of the Italian flag.
Io credo che la Sicilia sia una rappresentazione del mondo, cioè è un'isola all'interno della quale trovi tutto e il contrario di tutto, è piena di contraddizioni ma altrettanto piena di bellezze. Dalla costa all'interno trovi delle differenze incredibili sia di colore, sia di paesaggio, sia di dialetto.
Based on its location, which is right in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, Sicily has a bit of a unique culture where it's been settled by a lot of different people.
In realtà vedo un pezzo di ciascuna cultura che ha attraversato la Sicilia. Vedo ad esempio il pezzo arabo nostro, lo notiamo quando parliamo, è il nostro tono della voce, il nostro gesticolare. Assistere all'interno di un territorio tutto sommato contenuto a tante culture, tanti tipi di arte che sono visibili, non è facile, non è semplice.
So over the years, you'll see all of this merging of culture, language, architecture, all in the same place. And because of that, it's created a lot of moments of stability and instability, both socially and economically.
Dell'entroterra siciliano come Mussomeli nel corso del tempo hanno perso popolazione sostanzialmente per due ordini di motivi. Il primo ordine di motivo è legato alla carenza di opportunità lavorative, soprattutto negli anni 60-70. L'altro motivo è più legato a una caratteristica che è tutta europea e italiana e in particolare siciliana, e cioè il saldo negativo che c'è tra il numero dei nati e il numero dei deceduti. Ogni anno a Mussomeli nascono circa 90 bambini, i decessi sono circa 150-160.
Since things have become more industrialized and the world has kind of concentrated in cities and commerce, Sicily is a little behind from an economic standpoint. This region that used to be really well off and wealthy because in those days food production was paramount has now kind of regressed or holds like a secondary seat because commerce has shifted and commerce has changed.
Sono diverse le politiche che stiamo facendo nel tentativo di attrarre persone a Mussomeli. Una di queste politiche è chiaramente il progetto di rigenerazione urbana che abbiamo chiamato Casa a €1, ma che è un progetto più complessivo, il cui obiettivo è quello di attrarre nuovi capitali, attrarre nuove persone, nuove culture, nuove abitudini e nuovi cittadini che vogliono venire a vivere a Mussomeli.
There's been over 250 homes sold since the program started, and that's in the historic center. And that's, again, for A town that has 10,000 people, 250 real estate transactions is a lot, and it's all people from all over the world.
I was planning to stay in Mussomeli just for one night, and I was in a restaurant having something for dinner and writing. I wrote poetry, and the owner of the place came all the time to say, the mayor of the town is here if you need something. No, I'm okay, I'm just eating. I don't need the mayor for nothing. And when the night was ending, he told me the mayor was inviting me an amaro to not be rude. I say, okay, I accept it. He was thinking I was a journalist making some kind of note about the €1 houses. And I say, €1 houses? What are you talking about? That is bullshit.
Cecilia as a character is, she's quite a character because she has quite a few different facets to her. There's days that you can meet her and she's very intense and focused. And there's other days where she's like a firecracker bouncing off the walls.
I didn't buy my house in the €1 house program. I bought a premium house. The €1 house program, it has a pretty good impact. In fact, I stay in the town to know more about it. I think it's good to make the town more visible.
La particolarità di Mussomeli è che è un piccolo paesino al centro della Sicilia, quindi questo ti permette di vedere in Mussomeli molte caratteristiche di tutta la Sicilia. La sua posizione strategica ti permette di arrivare in tutte le parti della Sicilia, è bellissima per i suoi paesaggi, per la sua cultura, per la sua tradizione e poi non voglio essere ripetitiva, ma per la sua gente.
As you get into Mussomeli itself, it looks like an ancient medieval town. The charm is in the fact that these were all built by artisans of their time. You see it in the details of the structures, you see it in the streets. There's so much human time spent on making these things look beautiful. The wrought ironwork, the decorations within the churches. One of the coolest features in Mussomeli, in my opinion, is they have a well-preserved castle.
Il castello manfredonico, che all'incirca risale tra il XIV e il XV secolo, è un castello che chi viene a vederlo può notare lo stile arabo-normanno ancora mantenuto, conservato come era appunto ai tempi. Bellissimo da vedere sicuramente, è in una posizione strategica, a solo 2 chilometri dal centro dove si svolge la vita quotidiana di Mussomeli. Nasce come una fortezza militare, ma poi con le famiglie che si sono susseguite è diventato anche dimora di alcuni reali. Come tutti i bambini e le bambine di Mussomeli abbiamo sognato di sposarci all'interno del castello di Mussomeli, cosa che peraltro può accadere perché all'interno del castello è possibile celebrare i matrimoni civili.
The castle has this awesome view of the countryside. And in visiting the castle or in being in the town, it really transports you to a time where this is the way that humans live.
I was looking for myself because 6 years ago, I lost my husband. He was with lung cancer, ill for 3 years. And it was like a difficult process to me. And we were like so close, like when he died, I want to die with him. It's like it was pretty difficult to me. One day I feel like I wake up and I didn't have any reason to do nothing, you know? I didn't know where to start. I didn't want to stay at Christmas and New Year at home because everything remembers me of him. A recommendation of my brother, it was really that you don't have kids, you don't have nothing, just make a trip, just change the ambience. So I went to Playa del Carmen, the first trip, like all inclusive. And I started that way.
Changing environments helps me stay excited and interested in life. Routines are probably the killer of my soul personally. I can't do the same thing over and over and over again. I constantly need change. And traveling enables me to virtually change everything that's going on around me. Ultimately, I've been looking for more out of life. A lot of my time had been spent on focusing on my businesses and just kind of pushing my financial growth. And I started to realize that I wasn't spending enough time with my kids, with my family, and time was actually just passing me by. So I've been looking for places that force me to slow down, force me to be a little more introspective, and I want to start feeling again.
I think the first year was 3-4 months in Argentina, then outside, traveling in between. I remember, return to Argentina, then Aruba for 1 month, and then return to Argentina. Okay, no, Mexico again, Mexico, United States, Europe. It was, the whole time it was that way. 2019, I say, okay, I need to stop. I don't want to return here again and be renting and moving and renting. It's like, but that point, it was, yes, 2019, that I'd say, okay, when I return the next year, I want it's going to be to my house in here. I pick Mussomeli in between other options because of the people. Because of the place, because of the antical center, and because of the house that I found. It was an opportunity because of the view. In here, I think I can have more time to create without distractions. You know, that's why I'm setting up my studio in here.
The thing that brought me to Sicily was the appeal of cheap properties. I saw a CNN article that was saying that they were selling properties in Sicily for $1, and I couldn't believe it. There was a time in New York City, in Harlem, New York, like the upper portion of New York City, where they were selling properties for $1, and I was too young to take advantage of it at the time. I wasn't an investor, I didn't have the capital, I was a kid. And my brother sent me the article, and I figured, here's my opportunity to own a piece of history, just like I could have owned a piece of Harlem had I thought about it in the right way. So the initial attraction was the cheap properties. What made me buy and actually commit to this idea was the people. The people in Sicily are really welcoming. You would think that they wouldn't be so welcoming to outsiders because they've been conquered by so many other people, but I think that's the reason why they are. It seemed like a no-brainer to be able to spend $5,000 to $20,000 on a home and have a place that is owned outright in a low-cost community and have like this cultural enrichment. It wasn't a hard decision to make at all.
For this house particularly, I saw it on the agency, just listed, but without too much information, but I already knew the town, so for the location and for that, I have the idea of what is going to be the view of the house and the area, and that. I make an offer just not to push the price, and I say, okay, I want to pay this. And I was having a coffee with the girls of the agency, and in one point, one girl was take some this, and I didn't notice, and then she returned and say, okay, they accept the offer. I said, what? Really? I bought a house? That was the first time that I say, oh my God. I was in between two places mainly to buy a house. One, it was Castellammare del Golfo, and the other one was Mussomeli. Castellammare del Golfo is a small town close to Palermo. I think it's 30 minutes from Palermo, close to the airport. And for me, it's so cool because it's small, nice, cozy, like a little Taormina could be, some kind of fancy, a port town. You have an amazing coast road if you like to train or just enjoy the sunset or wherever. Beaches, like perfect town for me. It was pricey than Mussomeli. I could have the same thing that I have in my mind, the same budget, but half of meters. I didn't know nobody over there. It's a bigger city or more touristic city, so the people change a lot. Doesn't happen that in Mussomeli, like people is locals that are here all the time.
It's a fantastic place. The watercolor, first of all, is like this beautiful sea green to light blue color, and it sits kind of perched up on the hills. So you have beautiful views, old architecture that, again, looks like something out of a magazine or textbook. So if you want to be in a historically Sicilian sort of town without the tourist attractions of like a Taormina, for instance, where it's more visited and kind of built up in a certain way. If you want that rawness of small town charm, but you also want to enjoy the coast, Castellammare del Golfo is a beautiful place for that. You'll have people who are just sitting back, relaxing, eating the granite, which is like an Italian icy. The people are, again, incredibly warm. People really think that being in Europe, especially in Italy, might be an expensive lifestyle, and it's farthest from the truth. Italy is relatively inexpensive to live in, especially if you're down in Sicily or in the southern parts of Italy. The industrial side of Italy has moved more or less to the north, and the south depends heavily on agriculture, exports of goods, etc. So when you're in the south, things are a lot cheaper. You could grab a pizza at a restaurant. This is a full pizza for anywhere from 5 to 7 euros. That would be the typical price of something like that. Coffee in the morning would only run you about $1.50 or even $1. Things are super inexpensive here, in my opinion. I'm always comparing the cost of living in other countries to New York City, and I would say living in Sicily is probably 20 to 30% more expensive than living in South America, and about half as expensive as living in a major city in the United States.
I couldn't say like I'm an average person to make you like the cost of living, because when I went out, people invite me everything. It's like in here you don't even pay the breakfast, you know. I invite you, I invite you, I invite you. Okay, one day I can invite you, I invite you. It's like crazy. If you love to cook, if you love to stay at home and you're not hanging out whole days, I think with 600, you are okay in here. Yes, okay, I'm alone. If you have kids, husband, and whatever, or if you are eating the whole day, I don't know. I don't need too much to live. For me, it's basic internet, electricity, and hot shower, and I'm happy.
A Milano, a Roma, vivere in un appartamento di 100 metri quadri in affitto significa considerare 800.000 euro al mese per l'affitto. Da noi parliamo di 200 euro al mese per una casa di 140 metri quadri, quindi il costo della vita a Mussomeli è di gran lunga inferiore rispetto a qualunque altra parte d'Italia. Ad esempio è uscita una statistica proprio 2 giorni fa in cui si dice che il mercato immobiliare in provincia di Caltanissetta è quello più basso rispetto a tutto il resto d'Italia.
Per quanto riguarda il cibo, vabbè, risaputo, in tutta Italia si mangia bene, lo sanno in tutto il mondo che l'Italia è la patria del buon cibo e della buona alimentazione. Quando tu vai via dalla Sicilia, dall'Italia in generale, la cosa che ti manca è la pasta, perché anche se comunque viene cucinata non ha lo stesso sapore che ha in Italia.
Talking about food and Sicily, it's difficult. Each time I return to my house, it was with 4 more kilograms, just like, it's crazy.
One of my favorite dishes is probably a shrimp carpaccio. What you'll see is either it'll be kind of presented as a tartare, or they'll have the shrimp beaten down and flattened, topped with olive oil, some herbs. Another dish that I associate totally with Sicily, and you could actually catch it in other regions of Italy, is the black pasta. What they do is they take squid ink, usually spaghetti, cuttlefish, mix it all together. It looks pretty funky, but it tastes delicious. Anybody who comes here, I usually recommend that they try it at least once, because it makes for a great picture. It's visually appealing, in my opinion, because it looks so different. Definitely things that I recommend. Another thing that you might find commonly in Sicilian food is pistachio. Pistachio ice cream, pistachio cream and croissants, pistachio in your pasta, pistachio in your meats. Pistachio, pistachio, pistachio in almost everything. So whenever I'm thinking about Sicilian food, it's always a mix of what's happening in the coast and what's happening in the countryside. This fusion of wheat, pasta, seafood, all of it goes into the dish and dances in a wonderful way.
The whole southern half of Italy is ignored by guidebooks. They just oh yeah, and then you go over to Sicily, and it's like, well, that's half of Italy right there. You're not even talking about Calabria. Yeah, what the heck? I would really describe the Calabria region as really a diverse region. I mean, there's so many different influences in this region. In all ways. I mean, from the Byzantine influences, Albanese, Greek, that kind of thing. Super rich in history, because Calabria and southern Italy was the Magna Grecia back in the day. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So, you've got your beautiful sea, you've got the gorgeous mountains, you've got the landscape and the farms and things in between. It's real. And it's alive, and it's vibrant, and I don't know, it's all the best things in life, right? It's uninhibited. I started looking, after the kids were grown, there's a hole in your life, because as a couple, you're sitting there looking at, your goals are in common. We're going to keep these kids alive. We're going to keep them alive, and we're going to educate them, and we're going to get them the medical care they need. And then when they go off, they're going to be great, right? And that's a goal that's really all encompassing. You get up, you pack the diaper bags, and off you go, and for years. And after that goes away, you go, what are we doing? And people say, well, we grew apart, right? Well, that's because you didn't have a goal in common. So I said to myself, and I didn't tell Pete this, I don't think, until much later, we're going to have a goal in common. We're going to go over and we're going to start this new thing, whatever it is, in Italy. We're going to learn a language. We're going to enjoy the culture. We're going to bring people over. And by having a goal in common, we're always going to be strong as a couple. Because if you don't have that, what are you doing? You're going to go off, one guy's going to golf and the wife's going to do something else, and before you know it, you hardly know each other.
Look at, it looks healthy too, that plant.
I wanted something on the Mediterranean, I really did. I love the Greek, the whole Mediterranean history and vibe and everything else. I started looking in the south of France, I started looking in Puglia, all these other places in the Mediterranean, or, well, Puglia is Adriatic, but it was kind of the same vibe. And then I saw House Hunters International, and that was right when I was looking for a place. And I saw the mountains, and I saw the sea. I couldn't believe the price, and I saw the tiled piazza. Our piazza's tiled with flowers. I've never seen a piazza like that before. And I went, oh my God, this is it, So I dragged Pete over, and that was how that whole thing started. The first property was the one we bought down below that we just sold. And that was about 10, 11 years ago. We came over and purchased that. I told Pete we're coming over to Italy to buy a property, and he said we're coming over to look. And I said, yeah, we're going to buy. And we did. What you're buying is you're buying the experience. You know, you're not just buying a house. You're buying the experience. And if you look at it that way, because people say, what if you lose money? I'm like, you just go make more money. You know, what if you lose money? That's nothing. What if you lose the opportunity? What if you go through life never having bought and renovated an Italian property? After the first season, it was like 25 properties that we brought people over, we matched them up with the seller and facilitated the sale. Now, I'm not an agent, so I can't sell the property, but I can, you know, do the matchmaking and the marketing and everything else. So, so it was like 25 properties, and I don't even know how many now, and there's more down below. So, yeah, there's been a huge change in the village, and even, you know, Pete and I are even stunned by it. We had no idea how much demand there was for a place in a little medieval village up here in southern Italy. It's not for everybody. It is different, very different. The language is different. Very little English spoken, you know, here where we are. And then when you get into the Italian, you have the Calabrese dialect. So there are language barriers that you might not find in other parts of Italy.
I purchased my properties February 2020, and actually was in Sicily when Italy recorded its first COVID death. So throughout the entire renovations period, the country opened and closed. The material chain got disrupted, so a lot of materials weren't available, people weren't working. So it seemed like the construction was dragging on and on and on, and that I'd probably never finish a property. So that really had me thinking that maybe I made a bad decision. And especially when you're going through a shutdown like that and money gets kind of frozen up, you start to examine all of your expenses and all of your purchases, and you start to think, hey, did I make the right decision by spending money in a town that I can't speak the language, that is losing population? And of course, you go through it and think that you've made a really terrible decision.
When I took the decision to buy something here, you're crazy. What are you doing alone? You don't know nothing about there. What are you planning to do with your life? They make me feel like my whole life. Like not understanding my own decisions. But when the time was passing and okay, water again, I waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, listening tick, tick, it's raining? No, it's the bathroom. Fuck! You know, that was, at one point I have a safe home in my place. Like, what am I doing here? Do I need this, really? But people from here is so nice and with the willing to help, and I met a lot of people with this kind of situation who helped me, and it was something that nothing really. One Sunday, a friend of mine, I can say today, Gianni is an artist, knocks at my door to invite me to participate of a project of 15 artists painting 50 doors of the historical centers. That's why I can tell you I feel most than as accepted in here. Like for me, it was an honor just being from outside. They are considering me like a local artist to make one of these doors.
Qualcuno mi venisse a trovare per una visita, magari poi oltre a vedere qualche cosa che dipingo, prendiamo la zucchina, l'arancia o la pera che ho io o l'insalata, facciamo una griglia e si passa un pomeriggio, una serata assieme in allegria, in compagnia, magari scambiandoci le conoscenze, l'esperienza eventualmente. Io sarei felice, contento se questo avvenisse, ecco. ho realizzato, per ora è solo un bozzetto perché poi tutto deve essere trasferito su una vecchia porta in Piazzale Matrice, e io in quella porta ho inserito Karl, un americano, con la figlia, con la bambina, che scendono da lì. Ecco, il mondo, la storia che ritorna.
Devo dire che sono molto molto felice di vedere questa gente che decide di venire a vivere a Mussomeli. Chi viene qua sa di trovare una seconda famiglia veramente, cioè è questo quello che fa la differenza.
Vieni a Mussomeli per vivere un sogno, vieni in un posto dove il tempo si è fermato, dove puoi gustarti i tuoi momenti, la tua vita, minuto dopo minuto, senza la fretta, senza lo stress, senza la frenesia di ogni giorno.
Seeing people who are like you, who think like you, who feel like you, taking these steps that you want to take and finding success ultimately reduces the pressure to go out there and do it yourself. You need to be out there doing what you want to do because this is your version of life and you should live it the way that you want.